Okay.
All right, welcome to the special meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on August 30th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton, which has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonNJ.gov/meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19 coronavirus, notice that during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission will be held electronically via Zoom. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website and are to be maintained throughout the year. All right, Elizabeth, do you want to do a roll call?
Of course. Ms. Capozzoli,
I'm here.
Mr. Endersby,
Who?
Ms. Satterfield,
Here.
Mr. Shore,
Here.
Mr. Shatskin,
Here.
Ms. Campbell,
Here.
Ms. DeSanzo, Ms. Howard, Mr. Pyle.
Yo.
We have a quorum.
Oh, thank you. So Elizabeth, do you have any announcements?
Just that Ed is not able to attend today, although he did send a great representative, Robert DeVito, is that
Everybody.
correct?
David Al.
So he'll be filling in for Ed today as our attorney. Thank you so much.
No problem. Happy to be here for everybody.
Thank you very much, Robert, for filling in.
Of course.
We really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Thanks. So we are going to skip over the minutes and maybe do it later just because we got a little bit of a late start. We have 3 applications and 1 historic district nomination and then public comment. So we'd like to get right into things. Now, are the first applicants online?
I'm going to be bringing them in.
Great. All right, thank you. Welcome. And this application will be going on to the zoning board because of variances. And so we will be writing a memo to the zoning board. Let's see, I see Dan Fortunato.
I'm here, but I can't seem to get my video up and running. I'm working on it.
Okay,
And Grace Asagra is the
And-
applicant.
and Grace, welcome.
Hi,
Welcome
thank
to
you.
the HBC. So while you're working on your video, I'll have Elizabeth start with her report, if that's okay.
Madam Chair, would you like me to proceed?
Yeah,
Okay, so the applicant Grace Asagra Stanley has filed an application pursuant to Princeton Borough Land Use Code to construct a rear addition which requires C variances for side yard setback and height to setback ratio. The property is identified as block 15.02, lots 68 and 86 on the Princeton tax map with an address of 25 Lytle Street. It lies in the R4 zone of the former Princeton Borough. The property is in the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District of the Municipal Overlay Zoning Map and the New Jersey National Register of Historic Places, Princeton Historic District designated as a recommended or eligible district, and it's shown on the Princeton Historic Overlay District as type 2. So the application is in the jurisdiction of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, as the HPC chair had advised, and HPC serves as advisory to their board. Pursuant to section 10B-379, section 2, HPC review the preservation plan and provide its recommendations to the Board of Jurisdiction and provide in writing a memo, which is typical to HPC's process. So a description of the project is that, as mentioned, it's lot 68 and 86 between streets John and Witherspoon Streets, and it contains 4,460 square feet of land. The property is located within a residential neighborhood. And I think that people have an opportunity to already look at the package. And this is a pretty simple application, so I'm just gonna skip to the application itself because we have so much on our agenda today. The applicant, the property itself has had 2 rear additions, and what the applicant wants to do is they actually want to add a complete addition on the back. One side will be 1 story and the other side will be 2 story. The 1 story is on the left side of the house, which is the closest to the property line. And that is why that addition itself is requiring variances. The 2-story addition does not require it because they have a very large side yard in which their driveway is contained within that area. So the left addition really has very minor issues with it because it is 1 story and it is so close to the property next to it that the visibility is very small. But the right side has more visibility because, again, because of its openness, and it's 2 stories. And I'm just going to go over some of those additions that are being proposed. First of all, both additions will have a shed roof. So the 2-story addition, which is on the east end, will have, will have a gable roof. So I apologize, but that's a correction. And there's a bay window that'll be installed on the back of the 1st floor. The 2nd floor addition will fall short of the bay. However, a new 5x10 deck will extend beyond the window. A new door will be added on the 1st floor of the east elevation, and a common landing area to access this door and existing side door will be combined with a new landing and a new railing and steps that will be facing the street side and the rear yard, and a shed roof with decorative brackets will be added to that landing area. So just to go to the general comments. So the proposed additional increases the livable floor area by 45%, which seems a lot. However, the building addition is really in the back of the existing house, which will greatly minimize its visual impact to the street. The improvements are, again, most visible from the east side, which is open to the driveway. The commission is asked to review the color scheme proposed, and particularly purple rain for the foundation. And then there are several questions that are left for the applicant to address, and I'm going to leave that to the applicant's architect to probably go through. And that's it. And if there's any questions, I'm available to answer them.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Dan, are you able to respond with or without video? And I guess I have a question for Robert Davidow.
Yep.
If the applicant's architect can't get his video running, is that
Not that.
disqualifying? Or?
I have dealt with this a few times where the video has been unavailable. It's really dependent on from town to town how they want to handle something like that. I've had some towns say that they won't accept testimony. I've had some towns say to swear them in anyway. It's entirely up to the the commission in this case, but I was going to say the board.
David, sure.
I'm not sure. Do we have additional materials such as color samples, or were they going to be shared by the architect today? Because I only see essentially 3 drawings. One is the site plan, and then the other 2 are the large sheets with drawings of the exterior, but I don't see anything about where I see materials or anything or colors.
So David, there was a link that was sent that linked to the website. And then when you open that link, it went to all the applications. And when you clicked it, it provided that. And that's really meant to try to reduce the amount of paper that we're generating.
Right, but if we can't be discussing it,
But it can come up because we can get it off the website.
okay, then are you going to share for us?
I can if Dan doesn't have it.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, no, you're gonna have to share it with him. I can barely get my video going. I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to get these things over to him. So if you
Okay.
can share the link, that'd be
Sure.
fine.
And Julie, my recommendation would be to swear the applicant and their consultant in. And because HPC is serving as advisory, that perhaps it would be okay to have Dan without his video. That's just a recommendation.
Great. And Justin, well, actually, if,
Julie,
yes,
yeah, I just wanted to weigh in and let the board know that with the planning board, that Jerry Muller, the attorney for the planning board, has been quite firm that the testimony has to be given by somebody whose face is visible, because
And we should,
part
we
of
should,
the, this is not the planning board. I'm not saying that you have to comply with that or abide by that, but I just wanted to give that piece of information.
all right. Well, I think given that we're advisory, and we're sort of in a really busy schedule with a lot going on, I feel like we should try to go ahead. And if Elizabeth can share her screen with the materials and Dan is sworn in, we can kind of use this together to work out a presentation.
Basically, I could be a voice in the background just to walk you through this. So if it's not official testimony, at least maybe I can clarify things, and I could just sort of hover in the background here. But we are there's nothing today that I'm gonna be giving you visually anyway, other than my face. So that's about all I would be doing today.
I would still have to swear you in, just for
That's
so.
fine. That's fine.
Okay, you want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. Is Mr. Lesko part of the application as well? I'm sorry, I'm not.
No,
Oh,
he's our
recording secretary.
staff.
Got it. Okay, no problem. Sorry. Okay. Is it just Mr. Fortunato and Mrs. Sagra then?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you both to please raise your right hands.
Okay.
And do you swear as part of your testimony here today that you will tell the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So if we could go right into the materials that David was talking about, are you able to pull those up from the website and share our screen?
I'm looking for which one it is right now.
Okay,
Let's see.
and let Justin know if he can help.
Okay,
Um,
okay. I see it, but I'm trying to see if I can. Let's see. I thought I was in the shared, but probably not. Let's see. Let's see. Share screen. Yeah. Here we go. Can you see that?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ones that are circled are the colors in which the applicant has selected. And perhaps the architect could go over what the colors are for what part of the addition.
Right, I mean, I think you should talk about the existing house colors because that sort of informs a lot of these choices.
Yeah, absolutely, I can. Yeah, the colors that you see here are pretty much everything that is on the house currently. So all the colors you see are what we matched up to what's there. So we're not changing the color of the addition at all. It's going to match the house. So starting with the purple that you see, the purple is pretty much the base foundation of the house. So pretty much everything below the first floor, the concrete parging around the base was painted in that purple color.
So
and
that exists now?
it's just now
purple?
it's
Okay.
gonna stay that way. Yes, it is. That's the way it is today. And then the purple, I'm sorry, the color, the 212 color, the yellowish color is pretty much what we have right now on the outside of the house around the current condition of it. It's stucco that we have on the outside, and there's a color that goes around that yellow color, if you will. And then the color, the 193, is a stucco finish that we're going to be using. It's called the Dijon. And unfortunately, it's a little, these don't really show it truly as it is, but it is a very bright yellow color, like a Dijon color. It's actually the color name is Dijon. And that's what we're going to be continuing matching with all the way around the house on the new stucco finish, all the way around that. And then the other colors, the beige, the 1059 is really just the color of the gutters and leaders. And we're just going to again match the colors of the gutters and leaders in that 1059 color that's there.
All right, so does anyone have questions for Dan about the colors or materials being used?
Yeah, I don't see anything yellow. I'm seeing purple.
No, it's not. It's not. This is not doing it justice. The color of the house is a very bright yellow. The one.
Yeah, I know the color of the house. I know where she lives, but I thought we were supposed to be seeing that. All I see is purple and brown and.
Yeah, you see beige, but the 193 that's circled there at the bottom is the Dijon color. Unfortunately, due to this screen that you're looking at is not producing the yellow it truly is.
Oh,
But
okay, I see.
the actual Benjamin Moore sample that this was scanned from is the actual paint sample I was there with. So unfortunately, just due to your computer screen, my computer screen, it's not showing the true yellow color that it is. It is that 193 color.
You have photographs of the house as it stands, have we not? And the color comes through pretty well on those.
Yes, what?
Elric, I think when these were photocolored, they were photocopied, it definitely altered it because I actually have the true sample chips here. And it has been altered. I mean, it definitely doesn't look the same as what's presented out on the screen right now.
True.
These are pretty useless. For all the
But
time.
if you're familiar with the house, it's kind of like a golden yellow color and the base is just sort of a eggplant purple color.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, these colors, I went there myself and hand matched them with the Benjamin Moore color chart. So unfortunately, like I said, like Kim said, this doesn't show here on the screen, but she does have the actual samples in the office.
But Dan, I do want to say that 212 actually doesn't look like what's on the house, but you're
No,
saying
it
that,
doesn't.
but you're
No,
saying,
the 212 is the trim around the windows.
oh, okay, I thought you said outside the house, that's what I had written down.
Or maybe I misspoke. I'm sorry. The 193, the Dijon color, that's the main color of the house all throughout.
93, okay, let me
The
look.
212 is the trim around the windows, like a lighter yellow,
Mhm.
dull color, and then the 1059 moccasin, that's the color of the gutters and leaders.
So if people were to see 193, they would think that's the color of the house. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
But it's not. It's when people speak and you see the square around the people, it's almost, no, it's not that color, but it actually is a yellow color, but that doesn't represent it at all.
No, it doesn't. Not what you're seeing on your screen. It doesn't. It looks beige to me too as well on the screen.
Really, the mat on the picture behind you on the wall, that looks like the color I remember from the photograph we got. If you turned around.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, behind Shirley?
Yeah,
Oh, this,
other side, no. The
Well,
yellow
that's-
mat to the, there you go.
Sort of, except it's brighter. That's like a gold. It's a pretty yellow. Yeah, so
Anyway, I think the point is that they're not really changing the color scheme at all.
Right.
So
That's
that's the, I think the main point.
Yeah, but what
that's
my
like-
concern is that if people don't know, saying they're not changing the color doesn't mean anything because they don't know what the color is.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
well, hopefully
It is
people
a-
have driven by and seen the house.
It's a pretty yellow that's been there for a long time.
Yeah,
You can also see it on Google Maps on Street View if you want to do that.
oh, right, that's a good point.
Yeah, in fact, I think I added a few photos from Google Maps.
So I don't know if people can just pull it up themselves if they're not familiar, but anyway, let's go on to the materials going on to the addition. So you're using a stucco?
That's correct. It's going to be a stucco finish on the addition, again, to match the material, texture, and color.
Okay. And I think there was a question about the material of the hand railing.
Okay. Well, the handrail, we're gonna have to redo that because that handrail currently right now is not a safe, not a safe element. And on top of that, we're trying, right now, it's just pressure treated wood that was painted. And we are gonna be changing the size of the railing and also make it to code and everything else. So we were planning on using a TimberTech antique leather, which is the same brown color that's there right now, except it's going to be in a composite material.
Mhm.
No maintenance.
And then also the decking, what's the decking material?
Same thing. It's going to be, it's currently wood right now. So we're going to be taking that up and using, again, the TimberTech material, which will be, again, a no maintenance, basically, on these things. I think we're all familiar with the TimberTech or Trex type materials.
Puts on there.
And that's also gonna be like a brown color?
Yes, it's what's there now. So I'm just keeping the same brown color.
Okay, so there's really no color changes at all.
That's correct.
Okay, are there other questions about the addition, the windows, the new door? And so there's going to be a new door on the east side? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. There's a new door coming in. Now, the door that's there right now, it's a white door, but it has that beige 212 color around it. And that's where we're going to, again, maintain that. So all the windows and doors right now are white. But like I said, they have the trim around it that's in that beigey color. So we're just going to maintain that as well.
I see. And then for the door, is it gonna have, let's see.
Well, the door hasn't been selected yet by the owner. We haven't drilled down that far, but we certainly can. Currently, right now, there is a glass door on the side. Grace, you could step in here and just maybe describe that side door that's there now.
I don't really know how to describe it in terms of materials, but I know I just updated it and it's really good material in terms of steel frames and then glass and then with that I could change on the screen. So those are the, with the screen door,
But
good doors.
The door is basically all glass though with a grill on it.
Correct.
Okay, so it's basically a French door with a grill on it. So we're gonna keep the same theme on the door that we're gonna use there.
Okay. And then as far as the size goes, I mean, the two buildings across the street are quite large. So this is still significantly smaller than those buildings.
I strongly agree.
Yeah, the addition is really focused more at the rear of the house. It's nothing really at all on the front or sides. It's really just the rear. The only thing we need to go for in front of the planning board is just the side yard setback on the south side, but essentially it's not really, it's really not an issue. I'm sorry, not, I mean south, I meant the west side. But essentially it's just, we're not going any further. We're just keeping the same plane of the house, just going straight back.
Mhm. Right.
Looking at it from a two-dimensional view from the very front, you would never see this addition.
Right.
Just for clarification, Dan, it looks like the property line is not parallel to the side of the house. So when you say that you're keeping in alignment with the existing side of the house, does that mean you are actually, with the addition, coming closer
Yes.
to the side lot line?
Right, yeah, I work with Derek Bridger on this one because it's a 2-foot current setback, which skews down to a 1.75-foot setback. So yeah, you are correct. It does skew back, but we're keeping the same plane of the building, but it does get closer. If I kept going, yeah, I'd eventually hit 0, but essentially it's 1.75 feet.
And again, the neighborhood, the houses are all quite close together. So these lots really almost don't have anything to do with the zoning requirements. I don't think any of them conform.
We do have 21 feet on the driveway side and 1.75 on the other.
Right, right. Okay, other questions? Comments?
I have one question.
Sure.
The front door, was that originally a porch and it was later glassed in? It got a lovely strong shape to it, but it's so busy with all the grill and the windows and whatever that it kind of, I keep kind of wishing I could see it as a single porch.
I can answer that. That's originally, the only thing that I changed are the windows, but that's already closed in. It already has its own window before, it has its own door before. And so I just made sure that it's secure and better. Yeah, so it's been like that for all those years since I moved here.
50.
Yeah. So basically I just kind of upgraded into a more firm. You know, I just want to tell you that one of my experience moving in this area, in this historical area, is that having a flappy screen window or screen doors when I was renting. So one of my dreams is to have a good, strong door. So I made sure that I fixed my doors and windows because that was my first experience as renting, not even as a homeowner.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Are there other questions?
Yeah, I'm glad there's one of the few houses on the street that has remained as it looked years ago, because there's so many houses that have been changed on that street. So, and I remember what the house looked like. So I'm just glad that it's going to remain as it had been years ago.
Thank you, Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other comments? If not, does anyone have a motion?
A motion that.
Well, to, I guess, recommend to the zoning board our endorsement of the application. I know the zoning board is going to ultimately decide.
Okay, I recommend to the zoning board our application. Is that?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Julie, I thought I heard this was going to the planning board, not the zoning board. Can someone clarify before
Wait. Elizabeth?
It's going to the zoning board.
Yeah, this is going to the zoning board because of the
That's my
variances.
recommendation. So is my recommendation okay?
Yeah.
My second.
All right. Thank you, Ulrich. And then, so Elizabeth, if you could take a vote and then Robert would put a memo together.
Sure. Ms. Capizzoli,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Mr. Shore? Mr. Shore?
Um, uh, Abstain.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Forgot me.
And Mr. Shatskin, I'm coming around.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in. Good luck with the zoning board. Hopefully Elizabeth and I will both be at the board meeting, at least one of us will be. And we'll prepare a memo with our endorsement of your application.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you,
Bye, Grace.
Bye-bye.
thank you. So that was great. Our next application is a minor site with variances at 23A Witherspoon Street. Now it's important, first of all, I think we need to bring in the applicants.
Yeah. Justin, can you, oh, thank you.
Oh, I
Okay.
see Marina.
Yep, Marina? Oh,
Hi.
Chris is here, right? Christopher? Just wanna
Oh,
make-
Chris DeGrazio.
We
Yeah.
have Christopher DeGrazia, Spencer Page, the owner representative, and we have our civil engineer, Chris, also here.
Okay,
So-
so I see one, Chris,
And John Dip as well is also from the attorney's office.
so
Yes.
Chris Brigilia, is that?
Yes, that's our
okay.
civil engineer.
All right, let me get them. And then you said there was one other one.
Spencer Page is the
I
owner
see him.
representative. Yep.
Thank you.
Right, so I see John, I see Christopher, I see Marina. Okay, I see Chris and Spencer. Great. All right, is everybody here?
I think so. Would not miss
Okay.
anybody?
Good. All right. Well, thank you. So this is 23A Witherspoon Street. And it is, I guess, completely our application. And Elizabeth, maybe you can explain, so we're acting as SPRAB,
That's
but
correct.
it's not moving on to the planning board or anywhere else.
Correct, because the application is classified as a minor site plan. The Historic Preservation Commission substitutes and exercises all the functions as a site plan advisory board. And it does not go to the planning board unless it is appealed. So at this point, HPC would be the sole decision maker on this application. So no moving on to any other boards, which I'm sure the applicant's happy with that.
Right. And then also, again, keep in mind, not only is it historic criteria, but also issues like zoning, loading and garbage and, site issues that we don't normally deal with. So Robert, could you
Yes.
swear in the applicants and their, everybody?
Yes, just to clarify, Mr. Bina, you are the applicant, correct?
No, I'm the architect.
You're the architect. Got it. So who-
Spencer's
Spencer's the
Page.
applicant. Understood.
Spencer, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you all raise your right hand, but also when you are actually giving your testimony, please make sure to restate your names for the record, just so it's clear. So if you could all just raise your right hands. And do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth as part of your testimony here tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Elizabeth, if you want to start with your report, that would probably be helpful.
Okay, sure. The applicant Witherspoon LLC has filed an application pursuant to the Princeton Borough Land Use Code for improvements to existing building and property known as 23A Witherspoon Street and the shared common open space. The project site is identified as block 2701, lot 6.01 on the Princeton tax map of the former Princeton Borough in the CB zone. It's situated between Witherspoon Street and South 2 Lane Streets, adjacent to the municipal parking lot. Surrounding uses are commercial, retail, business, office, and residential. The property is located in the Central Historic District and the New Jersey National Register of Historic Places, Princeton Historic District. I think I already talked about the process, which talks about that HPC serves as SPRAB under the minor site plan. The subject property is designated on Princeton's historic overlay as type 2. And just to give some reference, I tried to find some information on the property on the Sanborn maps. And I think if you read in my report, and I did provide some of the mapping from the Sanborn, and it was really very difficult for me to determine what the property was because there's a few alleyways. And even when I try to refer to J. McLaughlin, which is 17 Witherspoon Street, I mean, when I'm looking at the footprint, it just doesn't seem to be the number, you know, as you know, during the mapping, the addresses did happen to change over time. So there seemed to be a little bit of inconsistency. So I provided for the HPC, maybe you could make some heads or tails of it. It looks like perhaps it could have been the livery, which was designated by 1902, although before that it wasn't identified as that. It did go through a few different shapes. It started as an L shape and then a U shape where they added a shed. But I just provide that information for anyone in case they are able to provide a better distinction on if that property actually was in this site location or if it was not. And again, I was only able to look into it until 1918 because I'm not able to get any maps beyond that, at least at this point. So to continue on, the building on the property is 2-story masonry with a brick exterior and a low pitched gable roof. Windows on the second floor of the south and west building elevation are 6/1 with brick sills and lintels and brick lintels over some of the doors. Doors are found on the west building and elevation only. There are 2 first floor doors on that side, and there's a second floor door, which has an exterior metal staircase to it. Let's see, and above that second floor door is a pulley mounted above the door. There are small windows that are located on the upper floors on the east and west elevation. The north building, the wall sits on the northern property line and attaches to the adjoining building. The municipal driveway and parking lot is immediately to the south. West of the building is an asphalt area, which is surrounded by buildings on 3 sides. And this area is a shared space between the adjoining properties. This space is currently used for delivery, storage, trash, and recycling collection. Vehicles can reach the project site through the one-way municipal driveway from Witherspoon Street that exits onto South 2 Lane Street. Pedestrians and cyclists can also access the site in that same way, in addition to the Doan Alley off Nassau Street and the walkway from Spring Street. So the applicant wishes to renovate the existing building for adaptive reuse for retail, food service, and office. The first floor was really intended to be converted for a restaurant wine store, which was indicated on the application. But as time went on, I was advised by the applicant's attorney that they had secured or working with an electrical bicycle shop. So the plans were updated, which are the plans that HPC has now. The upper floor is still intended for office use. The zoning officer has reviewed this application and he indicates there are no variances required. So the improvements I'm going to go over briefly because I know that the applicant has their professionals who's going to go into more detail, but the existing building will be patched where necessary and painted. The south, east, and west elevations are going to have new storefronts and entries. The one on the west is going to have a roll-up garage door, which I believe is the intended use for the electric bicycle shop. Let's see what else we have here. The addition, there is a one-story addition that is being constructed on the northern property line in the common area. It will be attached to the adjacent building to its northwest and the project building on its east. The addition will provide a new kitchen door for the building on the west, a new entry to the project building on the east, and a central trash area with overhead doors, which I believe is shared by these properties. The addition will be 13 feet 9 inches wide by 7 feet deep and 12 feet 6 inches high. A 3-foot high parapet will be added to screen the new rooftop AC units. There is some new landscaping also proposed along the west side of the building. There'll be a 4-inch high Belgian block curb, which will contain new plantings, and they're proposing to put 9 new compact inkberry holly. On the east side of the building, there is already existing a linear planting as well. And the intent is to retain the existing plant material there. And if there's any damage to those plants during construction, they will be replaced in kind. There is future facade signage and lighting, which you can see is identified on the plans. So new signs will be mounted over 4 of the new entrances along the southeast and west elevations. And light fixtures are proposed for the signage, which will be mounted above the signs. Additional site improvements include fencing, and this is going to be in the commons area. It's going to be a new 6-foot high wood shadow box privacy fence, and that's intended to screen the designated utility area outside the building to the west. And the fence will have 2 access gates. They're also proposing a parking space for La Mezzaluna employee next to the fence. There is going to be a new A inlet in the asphalt driveway area and new piping that's going to be reconfigured to accommodate that storm collection. And that existing asphalt area will also be resurfaced. So I'm just going to go down to now the comments. It is recommended that HPC classify this as a minor site plan. The second comment is that the applicant is commended for his interest to improve the existing building and develop some viable commercial and office space in the central business district. Providing additional entrances to the building seems to work well because of the amount of accessibility to the site, and the small addition in the common area to store the trash and include the privacy fence and parapet to screen the rooftop equipment seems to be able to address a lot of the current issues right now, and I think it'll make a notable improvement to that area. It is recommended that the light on the new east door on the addition be eliminated. This is the one that is to the east side of the addition. And the only reason that that is recommended because there is already a light over the signage itself. So its thought is that that will already illuminate the door, and perhaps another light specifically to illuminate that entrance may not be necessary. Future signage will be reviewed under historic preservation administrative review with the zoning officer. And it's also recommended that HBC consider recommending that the signage lighting go hand in hand with that lighting, because oftentimes the lighting really is to illuminate the sign, and depending on the size of the signage itself, the lettering and things, that's usually dictated by that, and also the size of the entrance. So that's just for the HBC's consideration. But if some reason the commission feels that the signage should be, that they would like to recommend to be approved as part of this minor site plan, it is suggested that the 3 light fixtures above the roll-up garage door be reduced to 2 fixtures instead of 3. The commission is asked to review the following components of this application. Several light fixtures are proposed to illuminate future wall-mounted signs, and due to the proximity of the neighboring residents, the commission may wish to recommend a slightly warmer spectrum, perhaps below 3000 K for the sign lighting, and in consideration of the added light spillage that will be occurring from the new storefronts from 3 sides of the building. The new southern reset storefront and overall entry and storefront window, that should be considered. and discuss if that recessed storefront location would adequately provide safety concerns. And also the HBC is asked to consider the color scheme of the windows, doors, storefront, roll-up garage doors, and bollards. And if the commission does approve this application, they are recommended to consider the recommendations made in the engineering and zoning report of their August 25th, 2021 under the section 4.0E surface water drainage, items 1 and 2, and item 6.1, which is their summary of conditions of approval. And the rest are comments for the applicant to address. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Well, I'm just gonna turn it over to the applicant. I don't know, Christopher or Marina, who starts, or
Yeah,
Spencer?
thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. I think I'll kick us off. First, I just want to say I'm having spotty internet connection. So my associate, John DiPasquale, has also joined on. So if for whatever reason I get dropped or you can't hear me, can you hear me right now, by the way?
Yeah, you sound
Okay. Good. So I'm actually connected through my phone, believe it or not, because I don't have any Wi-Fi. So we'll see how long this lasts. So yes, I apologize for that, but he's here and he can jump in if I suddenly go dark. So I appreciate the introduction. I think Elizabeth did a great job in outlining the details. I just wanted to clarify one point. We are not actually proposing a parking space. It's shown on the plan. Our architect labeled it Mezzaluna parking because that's where they actually park. Today, they have a trash operation and sometimes they put their car in that space after the trash is pulled out, and it's just a label. We're not proposing anything or any changes to that area at all. It was just really a label showing that area is frequently occupied by the restaurant owner.
Chris, while
Yes.
you're at that space, can you also address, there was that 25% open space. Is that also not intended or?
No, that was an allocation between the number of units. So there's 4 condo units that have interest in the common area. So all that was a percentage interest, not like an actual physical division. So it was a little confusing, and I apologize for that. But when you have a condo, a commercial condominium, and you have these shared areas, you own, so to speak, a percentage of that. And this unit has a 25% interest. So that's all that was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Again, thanks again for all the detail. As Elizabeth pointed out, this is an adaptive reuse project. I also like to consider it a beautification project. You're taking an existing structure, and that building itself, we're not expanding in any way or enlarging. It's like I said, it's just really an adaptive reuse, bringing it up to code, making it look nice. There is an area where there's some operation area in the back where the trash is, and that is being enclosed in, to make it nicer, to make it visually more compatible. So technically, although that is considered maybe addition, but it's really just a screening and taking that back operation and just sort of screening it. And you'll see a lot of that in this particular project. To improve the visual aesthetics of the area. There's a fence going in, there's a parapet screen that's going to block the AC units. And like I said, the big focus was on the trash area, which is now going to be blocked from view. Right now it's open and it's not very, how should I say, nice looking at this point. So we're excited about this. We think it really improves the area. It's going to look great. They have someone very interested, or actually someone interested in the first floor, which is an electric bike company, which would be a great addition, Pedigo, to the downtown Princeton area for people that want to buy battery operated or rent battery operated bikes. So like I said, it's really, and there's no one I think lined up for the other area at this point. But like I said, it's a very exciting application because it's kind of cleaning up a little corner that no one even realizes it's there until you shine a little light on it in the downtown. So with that, I'd like to just spend a minute to introduce Spencer Page, who is the applicant's rep here. Spencer, are you there?
Yes, here.
And I believe you were sworn in. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the applicant?
Sure. I'm Spencer Page. I'm the CFO for Princeton Property Partners. And as Chris just pulled up on the screen, we own 4 properties in the downtown area. 15 Spring Street, which people may know as currently our tenant is Planted Plate Vegan Restaurant. Spoke to him today, said he was very busy with the students coming back. We purchased that building in 2011. Right next to it, 145 Witherspoon. We purchased that in March of 2020. Yes, that March of 2020. Interesting time to buy a building. So we're in the midst of just doing some slight improvements to that. Our most recent acquisition was 172 Nassau Street, which is the CVS building, which we just purchased in June. And then this property, which we purchased in 2018. We just had trouble finding tenants, in the condition it was in. People just couldn't really see it. As it turned out, I think with the help of some of the renderings, from Marina, as noted, we have a new lease with Pedigo, which, we think will be a great addition to the downtown area. They really encourage rentals. So not just sales, but opportunity for rentals for obviously residents, staff, and students at the university, along with visitors. So we look forward to having this property kind of reintroduce itself to the fabric of Witherspoon Street, right? As Chris said, it's sort of fades into the background a little bit. So from there, that's who we are, and I'll turn it over to Marina so she can go through the presentation and be here for any questions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. And Marina Rabina is a licensed architect. You're all familiar probably with her, local architect. She's been sworn in, and I guess this is because this is the last stop, so to speak. We don't appear before the board. I don't know if you go to credentials or have her qualified, but I guess it's up to the board or the committee.
Oh, it's fine. We know Marina.
Okay, I assume so. Marina, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I will try to go through our slides as fast as I can. Feel free to stop me if I forgot to say something or if there are questions. And then we also have our civil engineer here on the call. He will be available if there are any additional questions for him. So I just wanted to bring up to get everybody oriented because it's a little bit confusing. So this is the corner of Nassau and Witherspoon Street, and we're right here. You guys could see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this little box right here is in the sort of somewhere in the historic overlay, and you could see that the building in the front, as Christopher mentioned, it's La Mezzaluna restaurant and Public Wine. I think it's the wine store. There are 2 storefronts that are facing Witherspoon. And then there's the open space, and we're in the back. And because it's a condominium, our clients have control over the rear unit. So this is Google Earth image. Again, showing you the same orientation. So this is Nassau Street, this is Witherspoon, this is a public municipal driveway with parking. So the restaurant and the wine store, and this is us in the middle. And then Elizabeth intrigued me so much with the Sanborn map that I just couldn't help myself. And I thought I will overlay the Sanborn map on the Google Earth so we can finally figure out how did this all fit together. So you could see the red is the outline of the livery. And then I didn't have a key plan from Elizabeth, but I think this is the key plan that I found. And my understanding is the yellow on Sanborn maps are frame buildings and pink are, it says here, where does it say, brick buildings and masonry buildings. So this is indicated as a yellow. I am guessing this was a frame building and there was a driveway. So actually, interestingly enough, the driveway was not where the driveway is right now. It's right where the wine store is right now. But all the other buildings seem to line up. So on the next slide, I took away the Sanborn map and just left the little outline just so that we could all see. So this was the building that existed on the site until 1918. We don't know at what point was, and this box right here is the building that we're working on. And so it must be sometime after 1918, but thank you, Elizabeth, for finding those super awesome Sanborn maps. And I just had to overlay to see where, how is this?
Well, thank you for doing that.
I know, how fun is that, right? I was like, oh,
because did you say that it was yellow, right? Because yes, yellow does mean it is a frame. Yep. Yellow is saying that it's a frame. If it was red, it would be brick.
Right. So our building is concrete block. And I am not by no means a concrete block expert, but my understanding was that about before 1923, concrete block was meant to imitate stone. It was made very decorative. And after that, they sort of decided like, oh goodness, we could make very simple utilitarian ones. So somewhere this building became this utilitarian block building. But that was fun. So hopefully you guys don't mind that fun overlay. So this is a picture that I took just recently. So you could see this is the municipal driveway and the municipal parking on this side. And during COVID, Mike, the owner of Mezzaluna, was allowed and encouraged to have outdoor seating. So he is he's sort of in control of the front portion of the building. So this is his outdoor seating, and you could see our building sort of peeking in the background. And as you come further down and stand in the parking lot and look, so this is kind of a normal, typical situation. People who, we don't know either whether it's Mike, the owner of Mezzaluna, or is it the people who work for him, but this is their shared portion and they use it sometimes for parking. And you could see behind there, that's the trash. And I got them on a moment when they weren't there. So you could see, so this currently is the entrance into the restaurant. This is their back door. There's a Bilco door and another Bilco door. So there's a lot of back of house restaurant stuff going on. There are the two dumpsters, and this is the door right here in the corner that leads towards our stair that goes upstairs. There's an existing staircase. So what our hope with this project is to really clean this up, make this really nice, presentable for everybody walking by, especially with now pedestrian circulation on Witherspoon being proposed. There are going to be hopefully people walking and biking. And when they come through this block, we don't want this to look like this and smell. So I don't know if Spencer mentioned, but they also had difficulties with people dumping unauthorized garbage over here. So it would be real, you know, one day you show up and there's a whole pile of mattresses and you're like, seriously. So
Yeah, usually at the end of the semester is more common.
So having an enclosure with a door would really help to stop that from happening. That's been an issue. So as we keep moving around the building, So this is the side that's facing the municipal driveway. We already look at that. And then we are also very fortunate to have a pedestrian walkway that leads straight into the Spring Street garage right here. So that it's purely pedestrian, no vehicles there. And then this is that east facing, yes, this is east facing facade of the building that you could see through the trees. And then out from the building, this is what you see. This is a little courtyard and a really lovely place to sit. Okay, so I'm moving towards our floor plan / site plan. Is it visible for everybody? Great. So this is the drawing that caused a lot of questions. Sorry about that. So we, as the condominium, as my clients, the condominium owner of the back part, they have control over the 25% of common space. So what we're hoping is, at least we're definitely not parking in our common space, because that's not supposed to be what this is. We're proposing an addition of a planter, and this is very important for us to this addition where we're hiding the trash, and the entrance to the second story is going to be visible. So as people approach, as they're walking by, it's very clear where the entrance is. And then all of this, Michael's back of Mezzaluna house, we're proposing to put a painted fence so that he could do whatever he's doing, store his stuff, open his Bilco doors, and we don't need to be looking at that. So one thing that he requested, that he would like to have an opening here, because as you remember, now he has his outdoor seating over here. So it'd be useful for them to come out the back door carrying out things. And this door is located opposite his main delivery space so that they could deliver things in and out. I think one question was about the bollards. So we have, when we first met with the municipal officials, they suggested that some form of protection for the facade should be installed. And yes, these will be in the municipal right of way. And Christopher will talk about the process of how we're going to get these approved and coordinated. But there have been incidents where somebody bumped into the corner of the building and there's a hole in there. So this is the municipal engineer has suggested that putting bollards will help prevent that from happening. Oh, right. And so that originally when we submitted this application, we thought that in order to maintain flexibility moving forward, we would have multiple entrances. And in case this building has been unoccupied for so long and nobody wanted to rent it, we weren't sure if we're going to have one large tenant or multiple smaller tenants. So we provided an entrance here, an entrance here, and an entrance here, in the hopes that in case not one large tenant would be found, we could subdivide it into smaller kind of boutique stores. So we're here now today, very excited, with an actual tenant who's interested in taking the entire space. So they would like to have a roll-up glass door so that they could display their bicycles, and then they will use this door for entering. Am I missing anything? Oh, trash pickup will be the same. So the trash location maintains in the same location, except it will have a door to, first of all, make it much nicer and cleaner, but also not to have to deal with the unauthorized dumping. Did I miss anything? Everything, I got everything? Okay. Keep moving along. So this, if you remember the view approximately as you walk by on Witherspoon, this is my attempt to paste existing pictures. I'm not the best 3D modeler here, but I'm trying. So you will see this would be the glass roll-up door for the bicycle display. And then this is an existing double door on the second floor. We're adding windows, and right now this facade has very, very little glass, and we feel that it would be really nice to add glass to that facade. And this is the more detailed view. So remember that view with the dumpsters and everybody kind of not being excited, and you can't even see the door going to the second floor. So by turning it around and facing the courtyard, we will have a much more clear entrance for the people who are going up to the second floor. And this facade, in our opinion, is also very important because this is what you see when you walk down the Dome Alley. And also all of this trash is incredibly visible when you walk down the Dome Alley. And continuing around the building, if you remember that pedestrian walkway between us and the apartment building. So we are proposing to add windows there because it's a great view and it will also activate that pedestrian walkway and kind of make an exciting place to be.
And Marina,
Yep.
while you have that elevation, can you talk about those existing light bollards there and if there'll be any conflict with the new entry?
Yes, so there are 3 existing bollards and we will have to move the last one slightly. Let's see, second floor, there's no tenant yet, but the perimeter of the building basically is the same, and we would either leave it open if we be so lucky and have one tenant who wants to take extra, you know, the entire floor, or if people would like to rent smaller offices, that this is an example of how we would subdivide it. At the moment, there's no tenant yet. Right, Spencer? Okay, hopefully I'm explaining that correctly. And then we have a very fun kind of feature that is in the sad condition right now, but we hope to restore. So above the double doors, there's a pulley system that you could see here, the wood has weathered. So what we're proposing is replacing the beam and installing a pulley system that could be really fun. And we hope that, you know, maybe they will somehow either have, you know, when they're repairing bicycles down on the ground floor, they could use it in some shape or form, but make fun use of a, you know, an interesting, great feature. But it is a little bit in trouble at the moment, as you could tell. So a little bit of information about the bike store, and Spencer could chime in, but it's an electric bike company that will have both a rental component and a sale component, which we feel would be a great addition to the downtown, especially with sort of more emphasis on pedestrian circulation, things like that. And it looks like Thomas is proposing to have a zip line. I'm so into this. Let's do this. This is going to be so much fun. Yay, let's do it. So there we go. So if I missed anything, or if there are any questions that you need us to cover or talk about, please, we're here to answer questions.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Marina. So yeah, are there questions? I just want to say Elizabeth and I visited the site, gosh, back in 2019 or 2018. And
Long time ago, yes.
And this building really needs a lot of care. It's not in great shape, and it does not look good right now. And this could potentially change that alleyway considerably. So are there questions about the changes?
I have some.
Tom
Go ahead,
Pyle, I'd
Tom.
like to ask a question. Just a quick question. Are there any discussions with the municipality about resurfacing the tarmac that's around the coverage for the parking lot, so to improve the road surface area around the building?
I don't know, the engineers didn't say anything about that.
So we are definitely resurfacing our portion. But we did have a meeting with them and they didn't mention anything about the resurfacing of the municipal parking. That's a good question.
And David Shore, you had a question?
I have a couple of questions. Number one, I love reuse of buildings, so this is very exciting to me. Is there an OSHA or somebody else standard of why the Bollards, I think that's how you say the word, have to be painted a certain color black? Can it be any color that the owner wishes?
I'm pretty sure it could be any color that anyone wishes, yeah.
Okay.
So we match them to the dark gray. But we're pretty flexible if you have other suggestions.
Well, I think that they're all part of what my comment is gonna be, and that is that I like the research that we did and that you did to find that this is a concrete block building, always a utilitarian kind of building, subservient to the things on the main streets, and was a simple structure. Although, as you comment, the cinder block may have been tried to use to emulate the appearance of stone. But what I'm getting at is the shape of the building. Obviously, you're not changing the roof line, and that's probably the strongest thing, is the shape of the building. And that's terrific that it still reads as that kind of building. But my question is that a simple building is now getting a lot of lines, details, a very different look. And some of the things I'm wondering if they could be toned down. And one of the first things was the parking bollards. Maybe in the renderings, I didn't understand that you were trying to get them as close to the color that you just mentioned, trying to look like the stone or the existing paint. That would be great. But overall, I just think it's very, very busy. And I just wondered if there's a way that some of this could be toned down some and still look modern or of our time, but not so incongruous with the overall outline of the building. I'll just let other people make their comments now.
Yeah, just piggybacking on David's comment, and there's a lot of design in the fenestration. And I'm not sure I understand, are all the lines in the front bollards are of different lengths, or is that decoration on the facade as well?
Hold on, I'm gonna try to get there. 1 second, here we go.
Right.
Yes, so the intent with the bollards was to have them be of different heights. And the reasoning behind that was to make them look less like bollards and more sort of as a fun feature of the building. Because, for example, I think it softens the building very nicely when you have some planting in front of the building. We don't have any room. This is not our property. We really can't do anything planting. So maybe it is silly, but this is meant to be in a more sort of organic planting way for the different heights of the bollards. Again, if the commission feels that really strongly that the different heights are a little too silly, we can make them all the same height. I'm the only one who's probably going to be sad, no worries. The contractor will probably love it. I'm just cutting them all the same.
I don't know if it's silly, but it's a little.
To me, it's sort of like we would love to have planting, but we can't have planting. So this is the next best thing.
Well, it's just a lot of verticals and horizontals in the window treatment, in the entryway, and it's still a very utilitarian area. You're facing open garages next to the Starbucks, and the kind of shed building of the record exchange. It's all pretty prosaic stuff, and this really kind of I think will be exciting enough without the extra linearity. That's just my view in terms of how it fits.
The other thing we were thinking about is we could paint the bollards the same exact color as the building so they blend in more. I think they're there as literally bollards. They're not so much visually preventing people from bumping into it, but physically. So we could just paint them, make them all the same height, paint them the color of the building. Again, I'm probably the only one who's going to be sad. I'll survive.
So-
I would vote for that.
All right, so how many bollards are required or necessary? Just 4 or?
I don't think it's a direct science. I
Okay.
think the issue here is this area right here is where somebody already bumped into the building.
Mhm.
This is where the hole is. So by putting sort of more of them over there, first of all, it helps to screen the fact that there's a hole and we have to do patching. So it's not going to be as obvious. And then the other ones are trying to be sort of organic. Again, because we're trying to prevent people from bumping into the building.
Yes, so Julie, there's like 13 separate ones shown on that alone. So, you know, it's sort of a design, but there's going to be a number of them. It's not just 4.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm kind of with Roger about maybe well, I mean, I kind of see both sides of the changing up.
Nobody likes my
Well-
planted bollards.
Well, I
Jeez.
think, I mean, it's such a simple utilitarian building that adding that large glass entryway and upper floor is already a huge change. And honestly, cleaning up that trash area would be such an awesome thing because it really looks awful. So that part is wonderful. But yeah, maybe there's a lot going on. I don't know, David, do you have any ideas about the bollards?
David Cohn or David Shore?
David Shore.
I think that a few fewer of them, and you know, if they could be painted to look like the building or the same color, I think that would help. But Roger went on to say it so well. The fenestration of the big open spaces, it's very busy, and even on the facade where the large opening is, we have the windows in 2 different patterns above. I don't know what that does, but I think if the end ones were similar to the middle ones, it would still be very contemporary. It'll be all these things, but a little less busy.
I can certainly explain why they're that way if that would help. So the height of the opening is higher than just one window can do. So we have to split it into 2.
Right.
So
Mhm.
for me, it looked more exciting and more fun to alternate the center section being broken up high and low because it emphasizes the verticality, right? Where we carry all the vertical lines through, sorry for the architect talk, and then we break the horizontal lines that allows the building, which is a little bit square and a little bit chubby, to sort of be what I would call more dramatically vertical. So that's what the hope is, to break the horizontal line and maintain the verticals.
Could you
That-
comment on the need for the spandrel between the 2 floors to be treated? If that were not also a material introduced in a different color, and if it was just the same as the wall color, maybe that would
The same as the wall color. Again, for me, the sort of the outline of the opening creates the one large opening, sort of having to do with sort of this industrial look of it's kind of trying to have one big opening, but we can't really have one big opening because we have a lot of structure and ceilings and mechanical equipment that's going to be in the ductwork in the ground floor space. So this spandrel, I try to make it part of, so that the reading is that this whole thing reads as one big quote unquote opening, and it has a design within that. To me, again, that emphasizes this industrial vertical opening of it. And if we make it kind of punched openings, to me, it wasn't working that well.
I see it just the opposite. I see it very busy.
Can I ask a question of David? I'm not in no way an architect or an interior designer. I'm just an average citizen. But wow, this looks like such an exciting project for what is currently such a trashy area right in the heart of town. our retailer who might take up residence in this building is probably looking for some visual attraction from the street to attract people to come in, and perhaps also the professional office that might go on the top. Seems to me that this, I'm curious about the busyness. Is there some historic preservation component that relates to the busyness that we want to tone down? Seems to me that we could this project has the potential to catalyze a whole redevelopment inside here, that one day with the redevelopment of the record exchange, and then something funky on this bare brick wall to the left of the building, some colorful banner or some repainting. This whole area could be a very exciting outdoor evening place, as well as during the day an attraction of the retailers. So I'm a little bit not quite understanding what is the issue with busyness here. It looks like creativity to me, which is sorely needed in this otherwise desperately dilapidated spot.
Thanks, Thomas. Let's hear from Elric and from Brenna and Shirley.
Well, I don't want to be redundant, but I thought the same thing about those columns. I didn't know what those lines were representing. And, I just have a problem with funky, because when you've lived in a town that's historic and you talk about something being funky, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I like the building and I like the fact that there's an improvement. But my concern was why not put shrubbery there? But I understand, Marina, that we can't have a shrubbery in the front of the building.
I would love for that to happen, but that's not our property. It's the municipal property. So
I see.
We'll
Okay.
try to pretty please the municipality and see if they'll plant something.
Yeah.
Right, maybe in containers.
Can you hang plant?
If I just may, I mean, if you look at Elizabeth's memo, and it's in all the memos, the answer to Tom's question is that, something has to be appropriate to and compatible with the existing structures of the historic district.
Right.
So it's a question of how much divergence you want and how much excitement is compatible.
So can I make a comment here? Two things. One is, I think that this image is popping a little more than would happen in real life, because we have a painted graphic, and the buildings, the brick, the white building on the right is much duller than the painted graphic. So I think we're getting visually much more in our face, thinking that this is gonna just jump out. And I think it's gonna be much more subdued in real life. And also, when you take the Bollards and paint them the same color of the wall, I think a lot of the busyness is going to go down. So if that's the recommendation, we could certainly do that. And now you're having, the white, or that gray, I should say, the lighter gray, and then the darker opening. I think it'll. I think that'll go a good way to make it less busy, which is some of the concerns raised.
If I could, Marina, could you take us back to the original building photograph? Because just to remind people of what it looks like right now. It's
God,
it's
you kidding
pretty.
me?
That's what you see right now. So it's I don't know. I think it's definitely, I can see both sides. Because it's so simple, I think there's just concern that it's going to be a lot. Elric, did you have any comments?
Yeah. Actually, I like what David said at the very beginning about its utilitarian nature, and I like that, and I like the basic simplicity of the forms. I agree with the verticality. As far as the block work is concerned, I think that it seemed pretty obvious that the livery stable, this replaced the courtyard basically. I don't think there's any part of it that would date that early. As far as block work is concerned, I think Thomas Alva Edison was responsible for for patenting a block that was made in North Jersey, and you can see it up around Alpha a lot and north of Flemington, that area, which was very popular at the time. As far as its history of this particular building, I think Erkins used it for storage, and Irv Erkin is a history buff, and he could probably fill you in on a little bit more of the history. To me, I also like what David said about the roof line. For some reason, it reminds me of Italy, and it may be that just the flatness of the roof line, the warmth of the color you've adopted for the grace notes that would, I think, act as an attraction to draw people to the building. And finally, the Bollards. My Italian experience with Bollards is that I rented a Fiat and I managed to crash right into one. So I have a familiarity with their function. I personally, I would just as soon have just 4 plain bollards of about the height of a fire hydrant. I really think the building, it's the starkness of the building that makes it attractive. And if it came to instead of shrubbery, try and say that 5 times, maybe something espalier, just climbing the wall would suffice. But give it time just to gain a little character, and so I applaud it.
All right, thank you. We can go back to the proposal.
This, whatever works for you guys. I mean, we can keep this. This is my favorite.
I think we got that.
Hey, Marina, what's the material that shows up as tan or brown around the entryway? Is that wood or?
Around this entryway?
No. Go back to your design. It's also around the garage.
These guys here? Oh no. Did we lose the questioner?
Roger?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, did you get muted accidentally?
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you.
no, I was just curious if that's just painted or is that a different material?
So when we cut open the concrete block, we need to put trim around all of the windows. So this is going to be the same material as we're trimming the roof with, which is boral. It's a fiber cement product that's non-rotting, and it paints really easily, and it sort of lasts forever.
Okay, great. Other questions, comments? Brenna?
On the other side of the building, if you go to the old building, is that a business that's there? I think it said Holcomb or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I missed
Olson,
that.
yeah.
Tea shop.
Olson C. Yeah, so this is this guy right here. Yeah, so this
keep going. No, keep going up. Keep going down.
Going right here?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a business that used to front on Nassau Street, but I think it was too much space for him. So he reoriented. Now he has a small store in the back. So this is his entry right here, and they've got this little window.
So is that connected to what you're doing?
No, this is the neighboring building. So we're the dark. See, this is the dividing line.
Right.
This is somebody else.
Okay.
So I did want to, I mean, I don't have that much that's new to say, but I kind of agree with Tom that, from my layperson's view, I think that the design is really appealing. And I do think it kind of, it keeps the basic shape of the building, and it sort of echoes maybe some of the big entrances and things that are going on with the garage doors around. But I mean, I like it. I like how it looks. I don't feel super strongly about the bollards either way, but I see what you were trying to do there, Marina, and I know what you mean of wanting to have some kind of more organic shape there. But I like it. I think it looks really inviting and appealing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, I mean, I definitely agree that I think the bollards would be better if they were painted white, but I like the verticality of having both that super frame around the upper and lower windows. Yeah, and that's a pretty simple design. So, you know, maybe the bollards would help tone down some of the busyness. I guess we can go back to the regular screen.
Oh,
So we
yeah,
can-
okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so just quickly see the hole right here.
Oh, yeah.
There we are having issues. Yeah, we better do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that I think fix the bollards or de-emphasize the bollards. I'm fine. The door is asymmetric. I like that. I like the matching of the garage surround with the trim of the windows. I think it's cool.
And yeah, it'd be great if the municipality could do some planters or something, you know, put a little green there, but
Right,
you know,
yeah, I agree.
I don't know if it's in the budget, David Cohen.
Well,
if we just
I
put
don't
some
think it's
there,
about
maybe.
the budget. I think it's about circulation space, you know.
It's tight.
If you could do an 8-inch wide planter, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Well,
Make
we'll
your
try
next
to.
project, make the
There's
next project reclaiming the parking spaces and building a new retail building across from it, and then you could have a beautiful retail street, pedestrian street, but you'd have to
Let's
find
do
parking
it.
elsewhere.
Let's do it. All right.
Start a new Ivy League. You know, every class plants a pot of ivy.
As long as you help us sell getting rid of parking spaces to the merchants,
Yeah,
Tom.
well, all right.
Right.
You get more tax revenue though off of the retailers than you would the parking. Maybe, I don't know. Depends.
Well, you don't get
Trade-off.
any tax revenue
Right.
off of the parking spaces.
Right. So anyway, no matter how you cut it, there's a lot of improvement to what's there right now, which is pretty bad. So is there a motion, or are we there yet?
Can we discuss those spandrel panels again? Because they're also shown on the side buildings in the drawings, but not in the renderings. They're shown on the drawings, but they're not shown on the computer generated renderings that we have on screen.
Okay.
I just think it would make it a little less, it would take some of that impact away that I don't like and keep it more utilitarian and cleaner. I'm looking at drawing A3.1.
Okay, yeah. I see.
In the upper left corner. I think there's spandrels that are filled in. They look like they've got some sort of darkness to them. Or is that just signboard?
Sorry, I can share the drawings because I'm not 100% sure I'm following the question. Should I
Okay.
try to share the drawings too?
Yeah.
Here we go. I think this is the sheet you're referring to, right? So here we have glass. Whoa, did I just click accidentally? This was the question?
Below that.
Below
What's-
that, this
yeah.
guy here,
Yeah.
yes, so this is the same concept where it's a frame over the whole thing, and I think this is pretty much what was shown in the rendering. And then the spandrel panel, let's see if I have a picture, maybe in the very bottom. Here we go, yeah, so same thing, there's a vertical opening linking these two. Again, this is what I would call trying to emphasize the vertical dimension here. So the same concept. It's sort of a perimeter frame with, I wish I could have all the glass, but you know, first of all,
But can you just have the concrete block showing there?
This is painted concrete block, just painted the dark color, yes.
Oh, then can we just paint it the same color as the rest of the building and lighten that up?
If you really, really think that's a good idea, we can. I don't think that's a good idea because to me, that will break the verticality. To me, what we're trying to do here is again, frame these large vertical openings and make this tone as close as it is to glass, but it is literally concrete block being painted. And if you feel really strongly, I wish I could do this on the fly, but I'm not sure I could do it this fast. I could try possibly, but to me, it's important for that vertical element to sort of keep repeating, where it's a vertical opening with things inside of it, but it literally is just a paint color.
Now, the main door is going to have a sign. It's breaking that space, correct? So
Correct.
it's going to de-emphasize it, as will the one above the
So we
garage
don't,
door.
yes, we don't know who is going to rent what space. So for example, here now we have a tenant for Pedigo. So Pedigo will come and put their, apply for their signage permit. And this is the approximate location where their sign will go, we think. Here is again, future sign location.
Yeah, to me, that de-emphasizes that big open space. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I agree with Roger. I think that once signage is there, I honestly don't think it's going to be a big deal. It might help with the signage, might help the signage pop a little bit, on a darker background as opposed to just a white background.
All right.
Are there any other questions about, is the roofing, obviously that roof needs to be replaced. Is that just an asphalt roof?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Not metal.
Oh, a metal roof?
It is not a metal roof.
No.
No.
How about using metal for such a flat roof?
I am not sure we can afford that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Moore brings up an interesting comment if you want to go to the comment section.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Well, actually, right. It's in the chat.
Yeah. Why
So-
should a large building emphasize verticality and vacuous space and is hoping to encourage pedestrian comfort and flow?
Well, it's not a really large building. I mean, it's a 2-story building, but it's I think more of it's about kind of cleaning it up. But I don't think it's going to be imposing, like, especially in that location.
The building next to it is much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a huge building.
One scale of it is that the offices on the second floor only need one means of egress. It's not a big building.
Right. And it's really tucked back in there. I don't think most people in Princeton know this building is there.
I know, we think it's a secret treasure. Everyone
Yeah.
needs to discover it.
Yeah,
No,
you could see the relative size to the larger buildings on your existing building. I think it was like sheet 5 or sheet so. It shows how, well, this one does too, the other scale. It's not, when you look at the surrounding buildings, it's really not big at all. It's the perspective because we're focusing in on it that it seems a little larger.
I'm gonna try to share the one where I had the photographs. Hold on 1 second. And you can see, is that working? Did that work? No. Hold on, hold on.
It's pretty squished.
Sorry. Oh, here we go.
Hey, Molly,
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm coming. Here we go. So this is a photograph from a Witherspoon.
Yeah, so
Definitely not a large building.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, well, I feel like we're kind of at a moment where we're either gonna move on or not, but we have another application and a nomination, and I know some people have to leave at 7,
Yeah, I
and
do.
it's almost 6. So,
Madam Chair, do you want to
yes.
open it up to the public?
Well, I know the nomination. I think we've got public input from the chats.
Okay, because
And
Yaina just asked another question. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I'm okay. Why don't we bring Yaina in, but ask her, Yaina, if you could just briefly talk, just because I'm just saying that we have another application and then we have a district nomination. So, and I know some people have to leave at 7. So I was just emphasizing our time constraints. But sure, bring her in.
Yaina, since you had several questions, the chair has asked you to come in and kind of talk about them at this point.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Hi.
Ms. Moore.
Hi.
Hi.
My-
Can you state, Ms. Moore, you need to be sworn in. Sorry.
Oh, okay, this is Yaina Moore, 19 Green Street.
Okay.
And I swear to tell
you-
the truth, all the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Okay. My first comment had something to do with, I guess, what appeared to be the stark nature of painting the brick, which will further emphasize its size. Certainly, it's much more diminutive when it's brick, like many of the buildings in the cluster that it sits. And with regard to its larger status, which would then be emphasized by the lighter color paint, it will stand out. And I don't know if that is the objective in terms of the building as a whole. Certainly at the ground level for commercial space, there are different techniques, but that was the nature of my first question. So I didn't know, because the rendering, I haven't seen color samples. And so one of the renderings looked white, and then another one looked light gray, perhaps with some shadowing on one side, the west side, but it wasn't sure whether that was shadowing or an intent to actually have a darker tone gray. So that was a question, because I think the graying of the building would be better than stark white, because then it does get to be a bigger relative to the height of the public liquor store, which is 1 story. And even when you look in the perspective that you're given, certainly higher than the Record Exchange. All I was hearing was about this need to, or desire for, verticality, which is to give the sense of either grandness or greater scale than it may even currently have. And I was just questioning whether that would be the desired effect when you have a large sort of vacuous, undefined space that you're trying to encourage for pedestrian use, where horizontality is a little more comforting from a pedestrian standpoint. I mean, it's not New York City and we're not Rockefeller Plaza and you're not looking to have, buildings that are jutting up in the air. It's, is it sort of more the market effect, where it's a pedestrian market and things are more in a horizontal scale. So that was sort of the nature of my commentary, because if you're trying to encourage pedestrian nature, then buildings are better left to be the backdrop than to try to just, stand out in either its form or height or scale and the like. So that's essentially my comment.
Okay, thank you. So Marina, did you want to respond at all or?
I'm not sure. Should I respond? Is there time?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I feel like we did talk about.
I think if the board would like to have additional information, I could talk some more, but I think we have discussed these points, and for not taking up more time, I'm happy to talk or not talk as you see fit.
Okay. Well, I definitely think the bollard issue was helpful in making the bollards the same color as the building. But just to clarify, is the building a white or a light gray?
The building is a warm gray color that we have provided samples. Unfortunately, everybody's screen is different. So on my screen, it doesn't look at all bright white, while on other people's screens, it could appear extremely bright. So we unfortunately have no control over that, but we can submit physical samples.
And yeah, we had trouble with the last application, the same problems with perceiving colors. It's been a real problem on Zoom. But that said, I do think we've discussed the design and the placement and the pedestrian access a lot. And I'm just wondering if anyone feels moved to make a motion or in one way or the other. Elric.
I make that motion that we approve the design, the concept. If the bollards are of sufficient interest to people, perhaps that could be discussed administratively.
Okay. Is there a second to Elric's motion?
Yeah, I second that motion. We'll make Marina sad, but we should de-emphasize the bollards.
Okay. All right. And very sorry. And Elizabeth, do you want to take a roll?
Yes, but Madam Chair, can I just ask you a few things that were on the recommendations that the HPC is supportive of it? One, which is the comments from the engineering and zoning report, which was referenced in item number 6, if HPC would support the comments that came from that report for the applicant to address.
Well, I think they clarified the issue about the loading problem because they're not saying they're putting a parking space there.
Well, it was actually the comment about stormwater.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was the comment about let me see, the summary was the cost estimate of construction.
Oh, right. And that was for fees. I don't know. Marina, did you see the engineering report?
Christopher, maybe you're a better person to respond to this, but I am sure the owner will work with the municipal engineer to sort out the fees, right?
Yeah, so they're just asking for a cost estimate. Is that what you're talking about here? So
I think they are, yeah.
So
Sure.
I'll just read it, Carissa. So they are asking for the cost of construction of the site improvements for determination of a performance inspection fund. And the other one, which is a standard, and the other one is section 4, item E, let me see, item E 1 and 2. The applicant is asked to discuss how roof runoff is being collected and how its discharge gutters and downspouts should be included and connected. And also if they could discuss with them any attenuation of runoff to be accomplished. So if we could defer that to engineering, that you would approve that.
Yeah, we'll work with
Jim Purcell.
Yeah.
Okay.
I almost said Jack West there. We'll work with Jim Purcell and we'll come up with something that satisfies him.
Okay, and then there are a few other things. I know there was a recommendation if HPC would consider approving the lighting, but the number of lighting to go hand in hand with the signage application. Is that something that HPC will agree upon as far as this approval?
Well, is there some lighting we need for security and safety? Marina, this is more for you. I guess there's some some lighting related to the sign. There may be some that's not necessary. That's a question for you.
Yeah, I think in the ideal world, we would love to have the signage as part of the quote unquote shell so that we could do all the work and wire for all the lights. And then if the tenants decide to apply for their signage permits, we have no control over when they decide to do that, so that they're not holding things up. We would like to install the lighting. And one of the comments was that you would like to reduce the number of lights from 3 to 2. I don't think we have a problem with that. The reason
Just at one location.
Right, we had a suggestion, because there were the garage door is divided into 3. It seemed logical to have 3, but if you think 2 is better, that's not a problem. Also, there was a light next to the entry door to the office. And again, if you feel that that one should be eliminated, I don't think we have a problem with that. The reason it was there is that sort of kitchen door has a light and this door has a light. They're just sort of working together. But if it seems like that's not needed, that's fine.
Okay, so I think we can work that out administratively. And so with that understanding, could we take a roll call?
Yes. Excuse me. Oh, did we have a second to Mr. Endersby?
I was the second.
Yes, Roger seconded.
Thank you. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I can get it. Ms. Capizzoli,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield?
Yes, just tell me what those columns, what are we doing with those? I wasn't sure.
Those are painted the same color as the building.
Okay, so they won't stand out. And it is gray, right?
And it's gonna be the same number that's existing now?
Yeah, the picture that it shows is much different than what's up. So we have the rendering here, so I can see. And with that said, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming in.
We appreciate it.
We
No
appreciate your
problem.
help. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. See you later. So we have one more application and then we have the nomination report. So this application is 505 Mercer Road, Glenn and Ann Fries. I think that David was chairing when they came in for concept review.
Was I remember discussing it. I don't remember if I was the chair that day or not.
I think you were.
Well, could I ask Elizabeth the question? Is it substantially different from what we talked about that day?
No.
Maybe we can get this moving pretty quickly.
Yes, in fact, I think that it will be very quick.
Okay.
Okay. So I see Glenn.
Glenn, you don't have anyone else, correct? It's just you? You're muted.
There we go.
There we go.
I found it.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for coming in.
I'll be shorter than the last people.
Thank you.
Is it just you, Mr. Fries?
Freeze, yes.
Freeze. Okay, Mr. Freeze, can you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth as part of your testimony here tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so welcome. Elizabeth, did you want to say anything before we start with Mr. Freeze?
Nope, just that the application is pretty much what Mr. Freeze had represented at his concept review, which he did a month or so ago. And so, Mr. Freeze, if you want to take over and discuss any details of this, but I believe that it's pretty much exactly as what you had presented during that concept review.
Yes, it's pretty much the same. There was one comment from Elric to make the spacing on the side columns the same. And so we widened those, Elric. I think it looks much better than the entrance into the pavilion is on center. So that worked out really well. The comments on your letter, Elizabeth, were sustainability. It's a wood structure. It's kiln dried Douglas fir is the wood for the structure. The shingles are actually sustainable because they are reclaimed shingles from Loser Hall at TCNJ. So we are reusing reclaimed shingles, slate shingles that are really beautiful. Jerry Strober found them. There was a question about gutters and leaders, and with the size of the building, my plan is to try it for a year without gutters and leaders to see how much water there is. If there is too much water, we would add gutters, and the water would go to a pre-existing stormwater system that I have installed. Let's see, the other question was
Utilities underground.
Utilities are all underground. I have an existing conduit from my basement into the south east corner of the building where I will have electricity. So there will be no overhead wires. And I think, that's pretty much it. It's very simple, very straightforward, very similar to what we talked about in the previous meeting.
That's great, thank you. Are there questions for Glenn? Is everybody familiar with the design? Yes, David.
I was gonna suggest we just go straight to a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that with the changes that have been discussed this evening in response to our concept review and to Elizabeth's questions, that we approve the application.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
Elric,
Second.
thank you.
Pleasure.
All right. Elizabeth, you want to do
Yes.
a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that's the fastest application in the history of the HBC. So congratulations.
A very good architect. Thank you very
Good.
much.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So that was amazing. Thank you, David.
Be helpful.
So is Clifford here?
Yes, I will bring
Okay.
Clifford and
Sandy?
yes, I just want to make sure.
Right. I
Hey,
see
Cliff-
him.
Hi, Clifford. Clifford, I only have a phone number. Is that Sandy's phone number? 'Cause I don't see, oh, but let me see. Maybe I didn't pull it down far enough. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't pull my screen down far enough. Okay, I have him.
He emailed me shortly, so I think he's prepared to join the meeting.
Yes, he's here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. We ready?
Yes.
So as soon as everybody's on, we can have Robert swear everyone in. I see Sandy.
More than Sandy and Clifford.
Yes.
Yes,
Right. So I guess first we'll swear you in.
I'm saying it's just Sandy and Clifford, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you both raise your right hands for me and state your full names?
Clifford Zink, Z-I-N-K.
Sandy Harrison.
Okay, great.
H-A-R-R-I-S-O-N.
Thank you. And do you both swear to tell the truth and the whole truth as part of your testimony here tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
All right. So, and just in terms of process, so Clifford is arguing for the nomination. Well, Clifford and Sandy are arguing for the nomination of the district, which if we were to approve, would then go into a process outlined in our ordinance where a resolution would be sent to both the planning board and the council. Is that correct?
That is correct. It goes to both the planning board and the council. It is sort of a combination of the of a recommendation memo within a resolution, if you want to think about it like that. But it is a full-blown resolution that goes to the planning board and the council for a recommendation on the district to be determined to be historic.
All right, and secondly, any pending applications that involve this area will not be affected by this nomination. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so I just wanted to make that clear to the public in case there was any confusion. So I'm sorry, so Clifford, do you want to go into your report?
Yes, so I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
So as we discussed at the last meeting, this district was originally proposed in 1995. This is Town Topics from that time, this article. And at the time, Wanda Gunning over here is quoted as saying that it's important to look at Prospect as a group, a unique configuration of fine architecture. I'd like to see a really wonderful group of buildings preserved as a group and see the architectural heritage of Prospect become part of the town's heritage. It surely is one of Princeton's assets. And then Mayor Reed said, we want to look at this as a possibility of what might happen. We want to maintain the character of the street in the future. And so this is following up on that. And let me see if I get the right image here. So can you see this image with the black lines?
And not yet.
Okay, so this was the original 1993 boundary to include the...
Clifford, we cannot see the exhibit. You have to stop the share on this first image and then share again.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the outline of the district as proposed in the 1994 5 designation report. So starting with Terrace Club over here, it includes all the clubs lined up from campus all the way down to Court Club, and it included an eating club that was originally the Cap and Gown Club that was moved here, but that was later demolished. So you can see it's X'd out here. And then it included the 4 eating clubs on the north side, plus it included the Osborne Fieldhouse, which has also been demolished. And by pulling back from the street here, it included the Ferris Thompson gate and wall. And then it included the 3 historic houses and the apartment building. It also included 3 buildings down here. This one was replaced. This was a former eating club that was replaced by the Center for Jewish Life. This is Arbor Inn, that was also a former eating club and was only in existence as a club for about 4 years, I think, built around 1936, and the university has owned it since around 1939 or 40. And it actually housed the Woodrow Wilson School before the Yamasaki building was erected. And that is slated to be demolished, and work is actually underway by the university to demolish that. We felt that since it was an eating club for such a short time, that it really wasn't part of the district in terms of the significant evolution that took place to develop all these clubhouses. And then here is the former Olden farmhouse, which may date to about 1830 or 40. And the university, years after this map was drawn, the university moved it over here. So the boundary that we are now proposing, can you see this, or do I need to unshare and share again? Can you see the orange outline?
No, I think you
Okay.
have to unshare.
Sorry. So here is the orange outline that we are now proposing that eliminates this entire area down here. Actually, this is slightly inaccurate because the boundary would now go up here. And so we wouldn't, well, I guess we would include that because I think this is one lot, the 2 buildings here. So I think this would be included, this former Key and Seal site. Because I'm pretty sure that this entire building is one lot right now. And this building is removed, so we truncated the district around here, so it just includes the Ferris Thompson wall. And the rationale for including these 3 buildings in 1995 was that they're part of the visual history of the district, because 3 of them, these 2 and the back of this building, were all located right here where Cloister Inn is located. And they represent the earliest evolution or the earliest development of Prospect, when it was originally smaller single family houses. And so they contain the history of the district, and this one was later used by 2 eating clubs. This portion, the back portion of the building, was located over here, and the front portion was added over here. And so this was moved over there. So this one has definite connection to the district as an eating club. And then this building was built around 1924. It's apparently one of the first apartment buildings in Princeton. And the rationale for including it in 1995 was that it blends in visually with the district. It's Tudor revival, it's brick, it's on a very large scale. And it's part of the visual history of the district, even though it was built for entirely residential use. These buildings here these Tudor revival buildings are part of what's called White City. which is this whole area of Fitz-Randolph and Broadmead that has, I think about, is it 27 houses that were all built around 1907? And the rationale not to include them in the district in 1995 was that they are very different from the eating clubs. The eating clubs have multiple styles, colonial, Georgian, Norman, etc. And the reason is that the clubs were trying to distinguish themselves because, as an alumnus wrote, the quality of the clubhouse is very important for attracting what they called the good men at the time. And so the clubs really wanted to stand out individually, and they very successfully did that. Whereas this entire development of housing was all built at one time, and it's all Tudor revival. And the 1995 nomination says, because of its design, all in the same style, the same details, same stucco, that it's a stark contrast with the more eclectic combination of buildings that's in the whole district. So that's the rationale for including, or for this current outline as it is now. Robertson Hall and it's over here is now Fisher Bentheim. These two buildings are not included because Fisher Bentheim was built in 1990, so that wouldn't be eligible. And Robertson is a building that relates more to the campus. It was finished in 1966, so it's over 50 years old. And someday it might be appropriate to have it designated as a local landmark, but it's really not part of the evolution of Prospect Avenue and the period of existence that is included in the outline of this district. So if you hear a reference to the university field, this whole area here was the university field, which started in 1879. And the Ferris Thompson Wall was built in 1911. And many of the clubs wanted to be on Prospect because of its proximity to University Field, just at the time that university sports was growing as a very important activity on college campuses. So does anybody have any question about this?
I have a question about your period of significance. And it seemed quite broad. It was like 1912 to 1974. Is that right?
Oh, it's about 1890.
1890 to 1974.
Yeah, so it was the last building put up is the apartment building, which is 1924. When we started doing research on the three houses located over here, it became obvious that there were some significant persons associated with those three houses. And some of them made pretty notable contributions to scholarship in their fields. And so the period of significance was extended until then to include the scholarship of the faculty members that were there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. On the corner of Prospect and Olden, where the wall was, is that where the Third World Center was?
Yes, so this building was the Third World Center.
Okay.
And the wall goes all the way up to about here.
Right. Now, my question, I'm sorry, I have a question about why was the Third World Center demolished? Wasn't that one of the historic buildings?
Well, it was an historic building it was not in the National Register District, which comes down Olden and goes down Prospect and does not include these buildings. So it was not part of the National Register District. You know, the university would have to say why it demolished it, but I think the answer would be it was demolished in order to build the Ondlinger Center for the Environment, which is right here. And that building, along with Bowen Hall, and also with the parking garage that are here, they are all behind the Ferris Thompson wall. So even though there are 3 institutional buildings there now, when you're on the streetscape, they recede into the background thanks to the brickwork of the Ferris Thompson wall.
The reason I asked is because that was where African American and students of color went because they were not welcomed in the eating clubs.
I'm not sure when the Third World Center was established, and I'm not sure.
When they knocked down the Third World Center, then they went across the street, which is now the Carl Field Center.
Yes, so they went over here to what was formerly Elm Club.
Okay, thanks.
This is where the field, the Carl Field Center is located. Any other questions about this? Okay, I'm going to stop. We can come back to this. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll have to share again. So here is that same outline that is in, this is now part of the designation report that has been submitted that we're discussing this evening. And as requested by Elizabeth, I've noted the zone areas on here. So you can see under the blue outline is the E2 zone. Up here is E3 in the green area. And then this one building is in the R3 zone, which is on Murray Place. And so this report builds on the report that was first handed in, that was first developed in 1995. So that was the basis for developing this report. And then a lot of the recent research that came out about the eating clubs when the Princeton Prospect Foundation did the additional documentation in 2016. That gave us a lot more information about these club buildings. And so that's been added into this report. So as everybody knows who has looked at this, there's a report on each one of the buildings and includes the block and lot number, construction date, the architects, and views of not only the front of the building, but also from each side. This district would be a type 1 district under the borough ordinance of the past, where only improvements in the front or that are visible from the street would be addressed by HPC.
I think that's a type 2.
Is it type 2?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it would be type 2. I'm sorry, I thought it was type 1. So here's an interesting, let's see. Here's an interesting example where HPC approved this addition. I think it was 2017. HPC approved this addition to the front of Cap and Gown, stating that it was appropriately designed as an addition that respected the character and significance of the original building. So that is the only addition that's been built in the front of any of the eating clubs. And of course, I think as everybody probably knows, this is the grandest and certainly architecturally the most significant building on the street, Cottage Club, designed by Charles Folan McKim, who was one of the great architects at the turn of the century and perhaps best known for Penn Station that was later demolished. And when he was designing this building, Cottage Club, he was also designing the Morgan Library in New York City. And so this really represents the work of the master. This is one of the finest buildings in all of Princeton. But certainly not the building of only there are many other buildings that have major architectural significance, such as IBM. And here on, I guess you can't see it, but in the back here is an addition in the back of this area where a new wing was built. And it was very, very carefully adapted to fit the architecture of Tiger Inn. So I'm sure HPC would not have had a problem with that addition. So aside from cap and gown in the front, the district is really very much intact from the 1920s, the area that's within the boundary of the district. The Ferris Thompson Gate has lost some of its it's lost some of its ironwork at the top. And I don't think I included it, but I have a drawing of what the original ironwork looked like. So the top of the ironwork has been taken off, but with the drawing, it could be restored again.
Now, I want to open this up to other commission members, but I do know there's several members of the public who probably want to speak. But I want to give commission members a chance first.
Okay, Julie, I just want to say that this portion of the Ferris Thompson Gate has been removed. So this was also designed by McKim, Mead and White, but in 1911, not earlier than that. And the marble tigers are, of course, still there.
So does anyone have questions about the boundaries or which buildings are included? Any changes, questions with that?
May I ask a quick question about process? I first of all salute Mr. Zink again for the authority of his history and his contribution. Is what is on the table here the idea that we would make a recommendation to the council, the municipal council, to establish an ordinance, thus to establish this as a historic district?
Well, we have a whole section, a whole ordinance devoted to creating historic districts. And so there's a process that's delineated. I don't know if Mr. Davidow wants to go over it, but it's a multi-pronged process.
It is a multi-pronged process, and the part that pertains to the commission here is that there does need to be a resolution adopted to the council and the planning board in order to move this along further in that process, by which your recommendation is given to them to either include the district within that definition of historic or not. Now, there's a lot of other aspects to that process, but that is the process the part of it that pertains to you right here tonight.
So the question I'm really driving at in terms of process then is that if we are to make this such a resolution, that's a significant gesture on our part. Are we obliged as a commission to take further testimony or in a subcommittee to process this a little bit so that we can develop a strong consensus about this? And given that this is for some a strongly felt issue and to others even a controversial issue, are we obliged then to reach out to others who may not wish this to be designated further as a historic district and further understand their points of view? Obviously, I'm speaking about the university, but there are some others in the community who testified the last time in support of the university's project and against the ideas that were being presented, for which the majority prevailed. But my thought is just the process of this. Are we really at this moment going to be able to offer a resolution for advancement to the council without further spade work on our part as a commission? That's the question.
Well, I think the answer is twofold. It's the meeting is open to the public, so that's first and foremost. Anybody who has an opinion, like as you said, was heard previously or will be heard tonight. And that is sort of also within your decision to make here. If you don't have what you think you need, that's part of the decision-making process for you here. I think from what I understand from the prior hearing and from tonight, you have been provided with extensive testimony about the matter, but if you're not going to, it seems like you're asking me if you're compelled to vote tonight. Is that what I'm gathering? Like, so in a way.
Well, I'm not only an alternate and I'm a young member of the commission, but I'm just thinking ahead here because when we designate, if the township designates more territory to be historic, that's a very fine thing, and we're a very historic town. It does have knock-on implications, however, for other aspects of development and progress in the town. And I'm just wondering whether that would be, it's a consequential decision to make such a recommendation. So have we...
Well, as part of presenting, it's not just that they'll get the resolution that approves. As part of presenting to the planning board and the council, I believe it says a subcommittee of members shall also make the presentation to the board and the council when that time comes. So you will not. The answer would be yes. You would have an opportunity to then provide your thoughts along with the resolution to the board and the council at that appropriate time.
So the short answer is that there's still more public meetings. There
Correct.
could be several more public meetings before
Correct.
any final decision is made. And that decision actually is by council and not the planning board, as I understand.
Correct.
There's a sequence,
So there'll be a
Thomas.
full public hearing at the planning board, followed, if the planning board approves it, followed by a full public hearing at council.
That is my understanding of what will happen. Correct.
Mhm.
So this would only be the start of a process.
Right. And I mean, and according to the ordinance, actually the recommendation starts with HPC.
And
Well,
if
my
I
only thought is-
can just weigh in for a second, Tom, I think that what this commission is being asked to do is to weigh in on the historic aspects of the designation, not the trade-offs between the development implications and so forth. And that's why other groups are asked to look at it, is to bring in those kinds of considerations as well.
Good
But
point.
really your expertise is on the historic aspect, and that's what you're being asked to weigh in on.
Yep,
Oh,
that's a
well
fair
said,
point.
David. Thank you.
Very good. helps, very helpful. Thank
Thank you. So I'm pretty sure, Elizabeth, are there a number of people waiting?
Before you do that, may I ask a question?
Yes, surely.
Yeah, and I had gone over this with Mr. Zink before. In your document, it's when it talks about the eating clubs, it says, let me find it. They adopted a mutual agreement with the college to abide by certain principles, hired Black Princetonians as employees, and commissioned classmates as, you had it twice, their architects. Was this in your document before we talked about the fact that a book was written without talking about the African Americans who sustained all of those clubs?
Was that in this document?
Was it, yes, this document that you sent, I guess you sent it to everyone. It's the whole document and then the section for eating clubs. Because I asked you before, was this added to make it more prominent as to why that it should be a historic district? And I know you said one has nothing to do with the other, but my question was this in here before? Because you seem not to know that Black Princetonians basically sustained all of these clubs. So was this put in here after we had our talk, or was it here before?
So when I wrote the book on the Princeton Eating Clubs, you know, I did a lot of research at Sealy Mudd Library, and I came across some really photographs and one document, which I quoted in this current report, the document from Oscar Wright, which was his memoir of working for 45 years at Tea and Seal Club. But my focus in the book was really on the architecture and the development of the clubs. And as you have pointed out, you know, I should have paid more attention to the role of African Americans in that development, because they were the ones that provided all the labor for the operation of the clubs. So this report does have a page and a half or so noting the contributions of African Americans, which I think is important because the Witherspoon Jackson district was recently designated, and you know, there's every chance we get to illuminate the role of African Americans that was ignored in our town for such a long time. We should take advantage of. So I specifically put that in this document. And as you and I have discussed, you know, there's a lot more to be discovered about this note, about this aspect of the development of the clubs.
Thank you. Yeah, you answered my question, but take out classmates asked, because you had it there twice.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. So I'm glad that you acknowledged that. Thanks.
Thank you, Shirley. Are there other questions for Clifford before we open it up to the public?
It was a little bit unclear on why the designated district ended right at Murray Place. Is there a reason that it didn't extend beyond? Because the district is called Prospect Avenue, although it is prominently, there's a prominent emphasis on the eating club and its relationship to the residential district, how it is a great transition from actually the academic buildings to the eating clubs to the residential. Was there, what helped you determine where to draw that line? And I know, I understand on the south side because there's the white cities over there and they are considered very different.
Where the line, the line follows two rationales. One is that the primary focus here is on the 16 clubhouses. There's actually 17 with one of the wooden buildings. So the primary focus here, what is the most significant aspect of this? One is that they are highly distinguished examples of the revival architecture of a century ago. That's one. The second is the whole story, the whole evolution of the development of Prospect Avenue, from single family houses to eating clubs occupying those single family houses, to the first purpose-built clubhouses, and then eventually the evolution of the grand clubhouses to attract the best students to be members. So, you know, this is a very important history because all of this took place at the same time as Princeton was making its own transition, as the university was making its own transition from the College of New Jersey into the Princeton University in the nation's service, which was Woodrow Wilson's phrase. And so the two developments are really parallel. The growth of the university into a nationally important educational institution, and the very significant support of alumni and people like Moses Taylor Pine to develop really strong clubhouses so that the students would have a very, a very powerful social experience as part of their education. So the primary focus of Prospect Avenue is on the evolution of the clubs. Murray Place has probably 30 buildings on it, and they certainly could be an historic district, as could Aiken Avenue, as could Princeton Avenue, as could Prospect going further east, Harrison Street. Tim Quinn at one point when he was on council raised the issue of that whole area being declared an historic district. But that would be a very large scope, and that would have to do with residential development, how these streets were developed. Most of them are, middle class, working middle class housing. They're not the grand houses. And so that's a very different type of district, primarily focused on residential, whereas it has some very nice buildings, but it doesn't have the architectural significance of the, number one, several of the eating clubs standing on their own, like Ivy and Tiger and Cottage and Cap and Charter. Those are really magnificent pieces of architecture. And it doesn't, the whole Murray area going eastward doesn't have the collection of all these buildings built within a short period of time to meet the aspirations of undergraduates and their alumni supporters. So the history of Prospect Avenue is very distinctive, the history of that block between Washington Road and Murray. Certainly Murray could be looked at in the future as an historic district. And when Murray was developed is the same period when the whole White City was developed. So that whole entire area could potentially be an East Princeton, or whatever it might be called, historic district to be considered in the future. But it would be a very different kind of district. It would be a residential district as opposed to undergraduate eating clubs.
Why was it called White City?
Because all the buildings are stucco, and the stucco was originally much whiter. And now a lot of the buildings have been painted more of a tan color. But originally it really stood out. You can imagine there are photographs in Sealy Mud of the houses without any trees. And so here are these very stark looking timber, half timber, it's called, half timber buildings, all white, they're all uniform. Certainly it's a very unique development.
Is Broadmead part of White City?
Yes, and it was
because the Princeton Country Day is a brick building where Princeton Country Day was.
So Princeton Country Day was built, I think, in the 20s. and maybe in the 30s. And so White City, and that was just a nickname. It wasn't, it actually had it had a name. I can't recall what it was. The development had a name, but I think it may have been called Prospect Houses, because the two, it has two stone gateways on Prospect Avenue, one to Fitzrandolph and one to Broadmead. And it only became, all of that was developed around 1907. And it was designed by a professor at Princeton University, working with another architect. And it's worthy of considering as an historic district. The old Princeton Country Day School was built much later than the White City development.
Thanks.
All right, so if there aren't other questions for Clifford, I did want to open this up to public comment. Are there any hands raised?
Not at this point. So if there's anyone in the public who would like to, oh, there is someone. James Bash, I'll be promoting. Oh, and then there's, okay, they're starting to raise their hand. I see John Howler.
And video. Let's go. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
My name is James Bash, and I've been a resident of Princeton for 21 years. Thank you for the opportunity to comment in support of a local historic district on Prospect Avenue. Prospect Avenue's Eating Club Row, a contiguous collection of 16 majestic 20th century clubhouses, is a Princeton icon and unique in the world. The architectural grandeur of these exquisite manors rivals that of Newport's magnificent. Much has been written about the club and the buildings for well over a century by authors all the way up to literary legends like F. Scott Fitzgerald. Across the street are the Three Sisters of Faculty Row, the Avenue's oldest buildings. These Queen Anne Victorians tell a different story, a story rich in the humanities and the lives of the brilliant thinkers and refugees who lived and worked in them over the past century. Their graceful presence completes Prospect's history, one not entirely about eating clubs. Author W. Barksdale Maynard called Prospect the most beautiful suburban street in America. And although we live on a big and diverse planet, what we have here exists nowhere else on it. In fact, if you Google, quote, eating clubs, unquote, pretty much all you'll get, page after fascinating page, is about Princeton. There is no other town, college, or institution with this kind of rich history of longstanding clubs and their incredible collection of stately clubhouses. So considering Prospect Avenue is a public street, it's actually quite surprising that we don't already have a local historic district in place. Yes, most of these exceptional buildings are already listed on the New Jersey State and National Registers of Historic Places. But apparently, that may not be enough to adequately protect these extraordinary treasures from forces who, incredulously, would propose to denigrate and destroy them. Thus, it is up to us, the residents and public servants of our town, to proactively safeguard the unique historic character and streetscape of Prospect Avenue for the benefit of present and future generations. You know, this is a special thing we have here. It is one of a kind on Earth. If we lose it, if it gets dismantled, it's gone forever. So please, let's do the right thing and give the priceless jewels we have been entrusted with the proper care they deserve and all the protection we can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So could I just
Elizabeth?
say one thing? Mr. Bash pointed out one unique aspect I didn't highlight, which is that each one of these is an independent eating club. or the 11 that still survive are independent eating clubs, and the other 5 houses that are owned by the university were all independent eating clubs originally. Other colleges have fraternities, and there are many fine fraternity buildings from the same period at campuses like Cornell. But those are chapters of national fraternities, so they're national organizations. And also in most other places like Cornell, like as at Cornell, the fraternity buildings are spread all over the place. They're not all lined up in one spot. So the fact that these were independent student alumni organizations, which they continue to be, 11 of them continue to be after all this, after a century has gone by. That's unique in the whole country, in addition to the uniqueness of the assemblage of architecture.
All right, well, thank you. There are, I think, a few more people who'd like to speak.
Yes, I brought John Heilner in.
And I think Kip Cherry said she wanted to speak as well.
Yes. John, you're promoted to panelist.
Oh, okay, thanks. My name is John Heilner. I live at 4 House Circle. I don't know if I have to, but I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And first, I'd just like to say hello to some of my old friends, Julie, Eric, both Davids, Shirley, Elizabeth Kim. It's been a very long time since I appeared at an HPC meeting. I'm a 1963 graduate of Princeton University. And while I love my university and some of the things it's done in the last 10 years, for example, expanded class sizes and helped more low-income students attend, it has not been a good steward of its properties in town. A couple of examples. On Alexander Road at the corner with Faculty Road, 2 houses have been torn down. There's nothing in their place. On Upper Alexander and the block between the new traffic circle and College Road, behind McCarter Theater, there are 3 perfectly fine but now empty houses, which have been empty for quite some time now. We knew people who lived in one of them, and they were occupied as recently as 10 years ago by, I think, mostly university employees. But they're now deteriorating and basically been left to rot. Soon we'll hear, quote, they just can't be salvaged. And similarly with 1 or 2 houses across Alexander Road. So I can only conclude that the university really cannot be trusted to preserve the gems on Prospect Avenue, which the proposed historic district addresses. It already owns a number of the former eating clubs. Who's to say that in 1 or 5 or 10 years, the university won't decide to just tear them down and build some completely out of character building, just as it has already proposed to do with the former Court Club. We have a very current example. So town-gown relationships are always difficult. And in this particular respect, I hate to say it, but my university has not shown itself to be a good partner. While I'm not an expert, I have had some experience with 2 other local historic districts in Princeton. My understanding of the criteria for local historic designation are basically the physical appearance and history of the neighborhood. The buildings should retain the integrity of design, material workmanship, feeling, and association, and that architectural and design significance should remain today. The next one, they're associated with significant individuals. This is very well documented in Clifford's excellent book on the eating clubs, as well as his remarks this evening on the other structures, both those that remain eating clubs and those that the university now owns and is using for academic purposes. So that is a number of the former eating clubs are now owned by the university. And while they have not been touched now, I just have no faith that given its recent performance, the university will continue to preserve them. And finally, that the as a criteria for historic designation, that they should be associated with some significant events. And Clifford touched on this, and to me, the most important one is the metamorphosis of the social life of the university between approximately 1880 and 1930. So these are the established criteria for designation as a local historic district. I believe that the proposed Prospect Avenue Historic District satisfies all these criteria. And for those reasons, I heartily endorse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go to Kip now?
We had someone else before her. Is that okay? Or you want to
Okay.
go straight to Kip?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's going to be Eva Martin.
Mhm.
It is Eva.
Thank you so much for letting me speak. I don't have prepared remarks, but this is a project that's very near and dear to my heart because Prospect Avenue has meant so much to me personally. I'm not a historic preservationist, but I've lived in Princeton for 22 years. I've been a student at the university. I have taught at the university. I am a resident, very proud of my town and up until recently of my university. And I have always been inspired and brought to reflect when I have visited Prospect Avenue. And I think that what we have to realize is, yes, Prospect Avenue is absolutely unique in the world and in this country. And it also has the historical character of Prospect Avenue is really unique in Princeton, and what its role as a connector between academic and student social life, as well as between the institution and the town and the residential town, is really can't be overstated, because that's really one of the aspects of this street that makes it so important, I think, to those of us who have lived here for so long. It takes us to another place. And part of that is that part of the reason why we're able to move to a place of reflection in moving from our residential life to the academic life, to the academic sphere, is because of the historic nature of the street. The other thing that we should think about too is that the historic nature of this street, if you think about how Princeton is laid out, you have Prospect leading to the university, you have Nassau Street, which is the commercial street, you have Witherspoon Jackson, which has this connectivity with Prospect, and then we're going to have the other parallel street, which Ivy Lane, which is going to be full of wonderful modern architecture. And I think that we have to maintain and cherish this the Prospect Avenue, particularly because, unfortunately, the fact that that some of the buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places that it's not enough to protect these buildings. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ava.
Thank you.
All right,
So Kip is next.
Okay.
Okay, here she comes.
Okay,
We hear you.
okay, hold on. All right, okay. So I want to talk about a little bit about where we're going here. The HPC should consider Prospect Avenue for designation based on its history and historic architecture and the requirements of the town's historic preservation ordinance, which is section 10B-392. I realize that we're at the beginning of the process. I want to be philosophical for a minute. Why are historic districts important, and why therefore is it important to designate this one as an historic district? History isn't about what stays the same, but what changes. With Prospect Avenue and its historic buildings, each eating club has had a story of change and challenges that the town and the university share, both in terms of events and in terms of the fact that Prospect Avenue is a public street in a transition area between the campus and the town. These events include the employment of segregated residents of the town in the eating clubs, the role of influential trustee in buildings and grounds chair, Moses Taylor Pine, who financed a number of the eating clubs, and Sally Frank's gender lawsuit against against actually two of the eating clubs, which she succeeded in winning. All are some of the important historic milestones that have taken place on Prospect Avenue. And of course, architecturally, the area is unique and important to preserve. Historic districts create a context for the change around them. To put Prospect Avenue into context, the area represents a major period of change and evolution for both the town and the university and the country as a whole. This creates a foundation for further change, innovation, and understanding. The new ES and SEAS buildings, even without a formal district being in place, are in many ways built on this foundation. I believe that the presence of Prospect Avenue sends a strong message to current and future students about the world in which they are moving that would be reinforced by the designation of Prospect Avenue as an historic district. This in itself creates a sense of purpose and creativity for the students yet to come as they follow in the footsteps of others. Preserving Prospect Avenue as an historic district is honoring history. This will send the right message every day to every person entering and leaving new modernistic buildings in the area. In the keystone of the district, the building on the southeast corner is the Court Clubhouse, which is on the National Register. Notwithstanding that the formation of Prospect Avenue as an historic district will come after a decision on the SEAS project, I would note that the Court Clubhouse, specifically its location, where it was constructed, its historic story, its reuse, and the care the university plans to take in its restoration are all important pieces, maybe after the fact, but they should be retained in the current location as part of a formal historic district designated by the town. Students matriculating in new area buildings, seeing the courthouse every day, should see it as an inspiration. Its location is ideal for providing a visual buffer that maintains the Prospect view shed while offering the opportunity to have a modernistic glassing entrance right behind it. There are countless ways for atria and other architectural techniques to be used for joining the new and the historic in an exciting unified design. The Court Clubhouse should send a message to students every day that they are part of a continuum of history and there are creative solutions to every challenge. There are always multiple ways to solve design problems. What is important now is that the HPC identify the relevance between history made before and history being made now. Preserving buildings where they are is a challenge that any architect can and should accept in the context of creating a new building design. In conclusion, based on the extensive information in the historic record, the designation of a Prospect Avenue district is, I think, obvious. On the basis of the ordinance criteria, I believe that the area fully qualifies an historic district. The next step is to proceed with preparation of a nominations report as required by section 10B-392, procedures for designation of an historic district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kip.
And
Elizabeth?
Madam Yes, we just have one more left, who is Jaina Moore. And
Okay.
she's been elevated, and that's the last hand I see at this point.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Do I need to swear in again?
Hello again. I don't know. I think you're
Oh,
good.
nobody did anyway. Okay. Uh, I'm speaking in support of Prospect Avenue, and more specifically, the buildings that have been highlighted as former and current university clubs for designation as Princeton's 21st Historic District. Prospect Avenue is a well-known landmark for tourists, and particularly those who drive into town for windshield tour of the campus. While most buildings are independently owned and not technically on the campus, Prospect is a grand street that is also woven historically into the physical, social, and economic fabric of our town. It seemed to have eluded, however, Jeopardy's Ken Jennings, as it was one of the few questions he ever botched, re the East Coast college that has eating clubs, not fraternities. My family's direct experiences with Prospect Avenue range from the perspectives of my grandfather, influences on my aunt, to my own matriculation at Princeton, onto my fifth reunion. Elm Club, now the Carl Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding, was the club at which my grandfather worked for several years, and it was the landing point after he migrated from Loudoun County, Virginia in the 1890s as a teen. My aunt told me that he used to bring her as a little girl to the club to sit in the kitchen to hear the big bands. That spawned her musical interest to play violin at the PHS Princeton High School Orchestra, and later become a prolific Hammond multi-keyboard organ enthusiast. She was a 1950s UMich, it's the University of Michigan, sorry, PhD in microbiology. And she retired years from a career that began on the faculties of Virginia State University and others, doing scientific research at Fort Dix and Carter Wallace in New Jersey, a prominent New Jersey pharmaceutical, and culminated on a cancer research team at Princeton's biology department right across the street from the club that's was next to Terrace, I think, the Jewish Center. In her retirement, because of those experiences gained from her clandestine trips with her father, my grandfather, to Elm Club, she ended up traveling the high seas on cruises with the greats, and was known to many in Princeton as the woman who taught the annual series of jazz classes at the Princeton Public Library. Because of the role of the Avenue, which people in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood called Prospect, because of the role that it played in her life, she often spoke fondly about it. Of course, the positive experiences are outweighed by the social conditions of racial discrimination and disrespect that many Witherspoon Jackson residents suffered as employees of the clubs. My father always reminded me that while it represented a good paycheck for his father and their family, it was earned at a great personal expense. It certainly motivated my grandfather to quickly establish his own successful business and become his own boss. My father also shared that the world famous musicians, most of them being Black, could not stay in the area hotels. I guess then it was Princeton International at least. And therefore they roomed in the homes of Black neighborhood, now known as Witherspoon Jackson's Historic District. Having heard all of the stories, I personally remember Prospect Avenue due to the annual community viewing of the P-Raid, the spectacle of regaling alumni. However, it's the first African-American woman from our town to graduate from Princeton in the 70s. My student experience with Prospect Avenue and these clubs became a symbol of the university's long history of racial, economic, and gender exclusion. I had a particular disdain for what it represented, only traversing Prospect to escape to a more friendly environment at the Third World Center. As an architecture and urban planning major, I also marveled at the distinct elegance of each structure, even though I had been unable to enter most of them. It took that Supreme Court decision in favor of the plaintiff, Sally Frank, who's class of 80, to open up some of the processes to women students to apply for club membership. But the economic barriers to membership were not removed until 10 years ago when financial aid could be applied to the membership and residency fees. To close and to come full circle, in the early 80s, before the routing changed, I celebrated my 5th reunion with my father by my side by walking down the middle of Prospect to Fitz Randolph, waving at all of my neighbors who were so glad to see me, and I will never forget that, where the parade would turn to go down to the fields at Fitz Randolph. For some, the men, that is, who were club members, they entered their respective clubs from the rear terraces. And I recall as many women and African Americans did, having no home base or respite, only to roam the fields near the stadium to ask, what's next? Despite the scarred history of the collection of these individual buildings, they are worthy of preserving for the uniqueness they present to the university and the majestic physical environment it affords our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Yaina. And thank you for those stories.
Yes,
so-
thanks. I'll have to get that transcribed.
I have it written, thank goodness, because I didn't want to talk too long. But I know everybody else was going to cover technical points and I didn't need to go there.
Well, thank you. So Elizabeth, are we done with the hands up or?
Yes, no other hands are up. Thank you.
Okay, so with the members we have left, the decision is whether or not to recommend that this process continue on to the planning board and the council. So Mr. Davidow, I don't know if you're still there, but does the resolution have to be specific, or do we have a subcommittee that's created after the resolution?
So it needs to be specific as to the reasons you recommend to the town council and the planning board, approving Prospect Street as a historic district. As far as, I don't think you need to name subcommittee members as part of the resolution, if that's what you're
Okay,
referring to. Yeah.
but like each person, if we had a vote, like each person should say the reasons that they.
Well, the reasons have been getting put on the record this entire time. I mean, if you feel like you want to add something, by all means, this is your time, 100%.
Yeah.
But the reasons are what has been presented both today and in the prior meeting as well.
Right, and I really feel like everything's been covered, but if anyone has any other things they want to bring up, otherwise I think we're ready for someone to make a motion.
If I may, I just wanted to emphasize a couple of the things that were very well articulated by Kip and Yaina, and that and Clifford has started going down this road of adding to the cultural history and the socioeconomic history of the avenue. I mean, it's really been a laboratory for a movement away from elitism, racism, sexism. It's kind of encompassed that entire history, and we've heard a little bit about that. So I would like to see the cultural aspects of the district emphasized a little bit more, along with the architectural stuff. It's kind of a flip of the Witherspoon Jackson, where it was primarily a cultural impetus. Here we have a strong architectural impetus, but I don't think we can leave the cultural aspects behind.
That's right. Thank you. May I add to that? Is that okay?
Yes, Shirley.
Being the oldest one here who grew up in Princeton 6 generations next to Elric, I just want to say that I'm really glad that this is going to be the 21st Historic District. There were 7 people who sat in my dining room almost every week to make this the 20th Historic District. And I think that I live in a time warp because I'm always talking about keeping the history in Princeton. And I remember sitting on that wall where the Third World Center was, watching the men go down. There were just men then going down Prospect for the parade. And as far back as the ones who graduated in the 1800s, that's how long ago it's been, when they used to ride in those golf carts. Remember that, Elric? So yeah, but to the connection with Princeton University, we had a lot of Black men who could have gone to Princeton and they were refused. So they went to Lincoln University. I had 4 uncles and 4 cousins who went to Lincoln University. They called it the Black Princeton because they were not able to attend Princeton. But my daughter, who was in admissions after she graduated from Swarthmore, she was in admissions at Princeton and she used to come home late. And I said, why are you coming home so late? And she's 21 years old, but she's living in our house for a year to be at Princeton. Found out that she had met her now husband singing in the gospel choir. So she joined the gospel choir. She was the only non-student who was in the gospel choir, used to sing solos. And my son-in-law graduated in 1960. No, that's not right, 1990. And my granddaughter would have graduated in 2020 if they had had a graduation. So she's now at the University of Chicago getting her doctorate in biophysics. So we do have a connection with Princeton. And also my mother, who used to iron her little white apron to go work on the avenue with my Uncle Brud, who was James Moore. My cousin Richard Hall, they all worked at the, I'm trying to figure out where it is, the Key and Seal Club. And I have a list of all of the people in this community who I'm going to share with Clifford, who have worked on the avenue. And since 1997, when I gave the tour for the Historical Society of Princeton, I used to stop at the Robertson House. And I said, you see this little room, or this little door at the bottom of the house? That's where the men who worked on the avenue used to go for their entertainment and rest. That little part that's still there at the Robertson House. So we have a lot of connection, and I'm glad that Mr. Zink, I'm glad, as Roger said, we are going to look at the cultural part of Princeton University because we've been there forever. And I thank you. And yes, I'm going to vote for the historic district. Thanks.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I agree. I think having the cultural aspects is an important and significant part of the nomination. And obviously the architecture speaks for itself. It's magnificent. So yes, David.
If we're ready, I'd like to go ahead and propose a motion that we recommend this to council.
Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shirley. Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Ms. Capizoli?
Yes.
Mr. Endersby?
Yes.
Mr. Shore?
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin? Mr. Shatskin?
Roger?
Yes.
And Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Wait, you forgot Shirley.
Oh, sorry, and Ms. Satterfield.
Yes.
Well, she already gave me her yes.
Yeah, I thought that's why she didn't call my name.
Sorry.
All right, motion carried. So
Well-
thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Julie, and everyone, Shirley, on the council, and Roger for that good suggestion about including more cultural history in the nomination. And we'll look close, I'll look forward, as will Sandy Harrison, to working with the committee that gets designated to take this to the next step, which will be the planning board. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I think that's it for tonight. Unless there's any other announcements, is there a motion to adjourn?
So Madam Chair, you'd like to carry the minutes to the next meeting? correct?
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes, definitely.
If no one else will, I'm still awake. And I'll vote to adjourn.
All right,
Thanks to a very interesting discussion. It was great.
yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Alric. Is there a second? Oh, Roger
Second.
seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
in
you.
like 3 weeks, okay? All right, take care. Thank you.
See you. Peace
Good
out.
night. Good night.
Peace out. Good night.